Now I'd like to introduce today's guest speaker, Ms. Iraida Fung. Ms. Fung has taught Spanish at GDS for 11 years and has served on the Honor Board as faculty representative, as well as serving on the Honor Code Committee. During her time at GDS, Ms. Fung has been one of the most passionate teachers regarding the Honor Code, and she does everything in her power to ensure that it is upheld. So now it is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Ms. Iraida Fung.
Marion Jones, John Edwards, Bill Clinton, and Greg Mortensen. What do they have in common? They all are public figures, and they all lied. Not just once, but multiple times. The thing is that when you lie, it is very hard to lie just once, because most of the time you have to continue lying to cover up the initial lie. Before we realize it, we are entangled in a net of deceit and disappointment from others and from ourselves. Olympic track star Marion Jones was sentenced in a federal court to 6 months in prison, 2 years of probation, and community service for lying to federal prosecutors investigating the use of performance-enhancing substances. And of course, she had to return all her medals. John Edwards is being investigated for lying about the use of the campaign money he received. Bill Clinton, the 42nd President of the United States, lied under oath about his relationship with Monica Lewinsky, and subsequently, in 1998, became the second president in US history to be impeached by the House of Representatives. The list is long, sadly, so I will mention just one more person, Greg Mortensen, who you, of course, know very well because you were asked to read his famous, or should I say infamous book, 3 Cups of Tea. Juniors, how did you feel last year when you found out that you had spent time during your summer reading something that was halfway fabricated? We, the faculty, handpicked that book for you because we wanted to build your character, increase your global awareness, and awaken in you the desire for helping others. I know many of you were disappointed and even angry. What is it about lying that is so darn attractive that you can't sometimes escape from the spell? Think about these public figures and the image that we had created in our brains. They were successful, which in our society normally means that they either had money, had power, or they had fame, or all of the above. They were also presented to us as model citizens, people of integrity and high moral values. There's nothing wrong with being all this, except when you are not all this. So what happens when we are not the person everybody thinks we are? Well, we had to play the role. We start lying and deceiving, not because we're bad people, but because we do not want to let go of how good we feel when people say they admire us or when they clap when we pass by. But I have lived long enough and faulted often enough to tell you that you will never see more sadness, more hurt, more pain in people's eyes when they realize that you have lied to them. The realization of having been deceived is like an acid that corrodes your heart and your spirit. I remember one time when there was a shortage of powdered milk in Venezuela, and let me explain why shortages of food happen in our countries. The merchants hide a specific product so that they can raise the price. So, for example, if powdered milk, if they want to raise the price, even though they have plenty of the product, they would keep it in the back of the store, and everybody would come and they would say, no, there is a shortage of the product. That way they can raise the price. So there was a shortage of powdered milk, which is a very important staple in Latin countries because the liquid milk is not reliable. It lasts 3 or 4 days only. So poor people prefer to buy powdered milk. My mom heard a rumor that there was a guy selling cans of powdered milk after dark at a corner near our house. He was only selling the kilogram cans, so you needed more money to get it. One night, my mom took the little bit of money she had and went off to try to get a can of milk for my siblings. She came back home all excited because her kids will have milk to drink. I was normally in charge of feeding my younger siblings, so I opened the can. At first, it looked like the can was full, but after I took out 2 or 3 tablespoons, the powder started going down until almost half of the can. I kept digging with the spoon and finally felt the spoon hitting something hard in the middle of the can. It was a rock. The man that sold the can of milk to my mom had filled half of the can with rocks. That way, he could get all the money for only half of the product. When my mom saw that half of the can was empty, she started crying, and she asked me, "How can somebody do this to their own people?" She was not crying because she did not have enough milk for her kids, but because somebody had considered it appropriate to trick her. In Venezuela society, many times it is encouraged to be sneaky and to know the tricks, because if you don't, you will be outsmarted by the others. That means you can't trust anybody. I know you do not want a society where your intelligence is measured by the amount of people you can trick, or by how many times you trick somebody without getting caught. You can't possibly believe that the public figures that have been caught lying are smarter than you are because they were able to lie to you for so long without getting caught. Michelle Bostian, one of our counselors, was explaining to us that when somebody says or does something to us, whether it's good or bad, a pathway is created in our brain in such a way that every time we see or hear that person, there is a specific response towards that person. When you lie or deceive somebody, you don't get to say, "Oh, it's just a little lie." The dimensions of your lie are determined by the impact that your words and your actions have on other people. Your words will brand their brain and create a pathway. When they say your name or see your face, they will associate you with that event when you were not truthful. This is how now, when we think of politicians, it is hard not to think of liars. When we think of high-performing athletes, it is hard not to think that they are probably not telling the truth when they say they are not using performance enhancement drugs. We don't trust them, and consequently, we don't respect them. To foster an atmosphere of mutual trust and respect, here at GDS, we have an honor code, which I prefer to call a decency and courage code. Have the decency not to lie to me. Have the courage to not accept the actions of those who do. When I first came to the United States to teach, I was accustomed to being always alert, like an animal, aware of its predators. I would go over a litany of reminders every day. Try to park your car where it can be seen from the office. That will make it harder for it to be stolen. Don't leave your purse on your desk. Lock it somewhere. Don't leave pencils and pens at plain view. They won't be there when you turn around. Hide the copies of tests and quizzes in drawers so no student can get the questions in advance. Tape your classes so that the students cannot say that you said something wrong or inappropriate, etc., etc. You cannot even imagine how exhausting it was for me to get ready to start my day, regardless of how used I was to this way of living, or should I say, surviving. Then I came to GDS. When I first heard that there was an honor code, my first reaction was like, oh, sure, like the students are going to follow it. About 3 days later, Mrs. Garrison sent an email saying that somebody had turned in some money found in the front of the upper school building. I thought, what? Somebody returned money they found? This is amazing. About a month later, a student came after school to tell me that he had looked at somebody else's answer for question number 4, but that the rest of the test was totally his work. He said he was really sorry for doing it. Then I was like, what kind of place is this? This is heaven. Little by little, I started relaxing my rules. I said to myself, Iraida, it's okay to park your car far away. You can leave your purse in the classroom. You can have whatever you want on your desk. It feels so good to be able to dedicate all my energy to teaching and learning instead of worrying about things disappearing. It feels wonderful to open my heart to all of you with the certainty that you will not try to trick me. I thank you all for this gift. You have created a pathway in my brain, a good kind, and when I see you, I smile. Some may question the validity of the Honor Code. To those, I say, I can tell you exactly what happens when you live, study, and work every day in a place where you cannot trust anybody. It is tiring, unproductive, and sad. Every day you get to choose in what kind of environment you want to be. I hope you choose one founded on mutual trust and respect. Thank you.